why did you decide to make another record?
Because I basically had 10 songs and I liked the way they sounded. And because of lockdown, we moved out of the city into the countryside, which is you can see that on the video to paint how beautiful it was. And it just became a fantastic place to work. I had an extra 4 to 5 hours a day. So it's kind of a mixture between having the songs, which I felt confident about, I felt they were good, and also having the time.
So where did these 10 songs come from?
Around about 2017, I sort of, you know, kind of hit a brick wall professionally and musically and emotionally. And I literally didn't touch the music or anything for like a year and a half. And then, as one does, you come out of these periods. And actually the first song, Paint, the lyric to Paint, it's been a long, hard, sad, and lonely road, but I'm back again. I mean, that basically was the first song I got back into. Having gone through that difficult period, which lasted almost 2 years, all of a sudden I felt absolutely focused and clear on what it is that I wanted to do with these songs.
Do things start with drums for you? It starts with a melody, or like how, in terms of like kind of layering and structuring kind of the making of the song?
Sometimes it's the melody. Sometimes it's the melody plus a lyric. Sometimes it's a concept like pills or homeless. Other times there's a desire to, it's just like a pure expression of pop where you've got something to say like bells, but really you're trying to write a pop song. You're trying to write a song that's, I will not say it's happy, sad, but you're definitely looking for that banger chorus.
Why you decided, just why you wanted to record this live?
I can play the virtual stuff pretty well because I kind of learned how to do that when I started out making music for ads. So I was getting all the songs to that part, but of course they do sound flat, I suppose. And so yeah, I just got really adept at sending the parts, talking to them over the phone. They would send me a couple of options. I would edit the ones, that I wanted, slot them into the tracks. And then I got to say that I spent a lot of time editing. So I cut as much as I possibly could. So, if you think about the track, you've got the drummer recording on an electronic drum kit, to the bass, to the guitars, to the piano. That was another thing we recorded on a Steinway. I wanted that big piano Steinway sound. And then above that, you have the strings. And then on top of that, you have the vocals and the background vocals.
Got some really incredible people on the album. How did you find everybody?
The reality is because of my work, I'm surrounded by people who are either musicians or who know really good musicians. And good musicians tend to play on ads because they pay well. And so, yeah, I just had a bunch of guys that I could call on.
Who produced it, and the differences between, what the arrangers contributed versus production.
Producing is really having the overarching vision and making every single decision that needs to be made right up until the project is released and beyond. So in this particular case, I was the producer of the album, but I decided to bring in a guy called Willow. Now, Willow is a producer and multi-instrumentalist and singer. We kind of bounced off each other, like I said, for a year and a half. And I think we took the tracks from like B plus to A minus A in the period of a year and a half. And that would be a combination of playing, production, arranging. But in terms of the arrangements, in terms of what went where, in terms of the vocals, ultimately the decision, the final decision was mine on most of the tracks, except where he would make a decision and I would agree with it.
So I want to talk about the process of mixing the record. Who mixed it?
The mixer's name was Simon Harris. So that was the other part. So I'm a big fan of Brian Ferry's. I love the sound. I've always loved the sound of his records. And so I thought, well, if I can get the guy who works with Brian Ferry on the road and in his studio, then I can have him focus on the drums and the bass and the vocals, which is really the only things that need to be worked on. The rest of the instruments didn't really need to be EQ'd or mixed. They sounded great. Because we've talked about that, the acoustic guitars and guitars all sounded fantastic. So the things that really need to be worked on was the rhythm section and the vocals. And so he's just a total pro at doing that. So he was able to mix the album, and I got to say, yeah, it kind of came out exactly the way I wanted it.
It's actually a good kind of segue to talk about the sound that you were going for and your influences.
I think with pop music, a lot of the sound is dictated by the vocal. I have a distinctive voice, so I just try to make sure that the instrumentation and the production didn't clutter the voice too much, because it's distinctive, but it's not like a big voice. It's not like Sam Fender or Mick Hucknall, or I have to be a bit more careful about where and what the instruments are doing.
So let's talk a bit about like kind of musical influences when it pertains specifically to this record.
To go back to what I said before about, going through a really tough time in 2017 for a couple of years. When I came out of that period, I started writing a blog called This Week in Music. And I did it just as an exercise. And I just thought, you know what, I'll just get back to basics and I'll start listening to some bands and stuff. So I started writing about music that I saw and liked. And what I would always respond to was that hook, right? That hook, that pop song where you go, I'm here, I am a new person here, you need to listen to me because I've caught your attention. And so I think the influence to this for this record was really artists who had done that in the past, and new artists who were doing it right now.
That was the last question, is what's coming next?
I want to get a remix done of one of the tracks on the album. I don't know if it's going to be Train or if it's going to be Why, but I'd love to do that. And I want to do another video, probably for Why as well. And then I really want to try and focus on play some of these songs live. So there's a show that we're hoping to do in Madrid, and one that we're hoping to do in Paris, and one that we're hoping to do in London. To answer your question, my heart is not, I know when my creative kind of eye starts to wander away from a project. I don't think it's ready to wander just yet. 1, 2, 3, 4